I'm going to show you how to recreate the title treatment for the Netflix show Wednesday. I'll be taking a few creative liberties with color and background, but the treatment is pretty spot on. Absolutely no plugins are used to create this cinematic title, so stick around to find out just how it's done. The font is in the project file, the link for that is in the description. I'm very excited about this tutorial and can't wait to show you a ton of tips, tricks, and shortcuts. There's a lot to get through, so let's dive right in. Okay, so the goal is to try to recreate this. This obviously is the title treatment for Wednesday, a very popular show now on Netflix. I'm sure you've heard of it. I thought it would be kind of cool to try to recreate this. Now, even if you don't need a cinematic title or you don't really need to create anything like this for any of your projects, the cool thing about a tutorial like this is that we'll be creating a background with some smoke, we'll be creating some particles, things like that. So there's a lot of elements to this tutorial that may be of use to you. So I highly recommend that you stick around and check out some of these things. I've prepared for this tutorial, so I've got some pre-saved hex codes and value settings and things like that. I'll pop all of that up on screen as we go, so that way you can follow along. Let's go ahead and create a new composition, 1920 by 1080, and we're just going to go 23976, which is a film setting, and we're going to call this background. Okay, and click OK. First thing, let's create a new solid, so Command or Control Y, and we're going to call this background. Let's go over to our effects and presets and type 4-color, and you will see a 4-color gradient pop up. So let's go ahead and add that. This is where I have some hex codes. So for this first color here, for this yellow, I'm going to use this color right here. For our second color, we're going to have that darker purple like that. For our third color, this pink, we're going to use that color. And then for that last color here, we're just going to make this black, so all zeros. Okay, so let's take this background layer. We're going to duplicate it. We're going to rename it Smoke. Get rid of our 4-color gradient, and then let's go in and add a fractal noise. Double click that. So let's increase our contrast to 85. We want to open up our transform settings and then select this uniform scaling, so that way we can scale it separately on the X and Y value. Scale width is 400, scale height is 230. I want to move this on a turbulent offset. I see a lot of people use keyframes for this technique. I don't like to use keyframes because I don't like it to limit how long my animation is. So whenever possible, I like to include expressions. So let's just Option Alt click on Offset Turbulence. We're going to go open bracket value, open bracket 0. This is going to be for our left to right movement. So we want to move that plus time times 100, comma, space, value, open bracket 1. So this is going to be our vertical movement minus time times 50. We want to close that bracket. If we watch it play back, we can kind of see how it goes horizontally from left to right. And since this is an expression, it will move continuously. Let's go down to complexity, increase that to 20. Go to our evolution, Option Alt click on evolution, and time times 150. And so this is going to be our movement that we want for our smoke. Okay, so now we need to make some changes, obviously, to this. Let's close up that layer. We want to go to our blending mode and make this classic color dodge. T for opacity, 75%. Watch that play back, and we have this smoky kind of feel. You may have a need for something kind of like this, and hopefully this technique will help you out in other projects. Command or Control Y, that in another solid, we're going to make this white, and we're going to call this particles. Click OK. Go to our effects and presets, and we're looking for particle world. So CC particle world, with that layer selected, double click that. Open up this grids and guides. Go ahead and uncheck all of this, just so that way we have all of this out of the way. Okay, and let's set our birth rate to 0.5, our longevity to 2. Let's open up our particle settings. We want to make our particle type lens convex. We want our birth size to be 0.08, depth size to be 0.01. We can close that up. You can kind of see we have these white particles here. So now we need to place it in the proper place in our comp. So open up producer and let's change our position on X to -0.5, and that will move it over here to the left. So for Y, we're going to go 0.3. That'll move it down to the bottom. Our radius on the X is going to be 1.135. Radius on the Y is going to be 0.7. And then radius on Z is 2.5. Actually, I want to change this to quarter quality because it's going to start getting a little bit heavy. For physics, we want our animation to be cone axis. Change your velocity to 0.35. Gravity, let's make that 0.01. Then open up this directional axis here, and let's just change our axis X to 1. So this should give us the movement that we're looking for. With this layer selected, particles, let's type in glow. And we're looking for stylized glow. So I've got a lot of glow settings here. So this is bottom one right here, stylized glow. So double click that. And the only change we want to make is just make our glow intensity 0. Kind of give it a little bit of a glow. You can see the difference between when it's off and on. It's just very subtle. Close that up. Close up our CC particle world and take that glow and just duplicate it. So that way we have 2 instances of it. Change our blend mode, classic color dodge, T for opacity, and let's just reduce this down to maybe 85. If we watch that play back, we can see how our particles are now kind of integrated into our background there. Command or Control N to create a new composition, and we want to call this text face. Now I've got this font that's called Full of Woe. That's what we're going to be using for this tutorial. I'll put this in the project file so that way you can have this font as well. So Command or Control T, we're just going to type Wednesday. Command or Control, double click the pan around tool to put the anchor point in the center of our text layer. Let's just line this up. Okay, I'm going to kind of maybe increase this a little bit. So now let's add in some effects to give this that look that we can see on this title treatment here. So let's go to Effects and Presets, Fractal Noise. Just double click Fractal Noise. So that way it adds it to our text layer there. Change our fractal type to cloudy, noise type to spline. We want to invert this. That way it's darker within our text. Now open up these transform settings, scale 17. Let's move on down, complexity. Let's increase this up to 15. And then we want to change this blending mode from normal to screen. So that way it kind of blends in like that. Okay, and then select this layer, let's go up to layer styles, and we want to add in a gradient overlay. Let's open up our gradient overlay, change our blend mode to overlay, edit gradient, and we just want to swap these colors. So we want the white to be on the right, black to be on the left. So that way our black is at the bottom, white is at the top. And let's make this layer 3D. Close that up. Command or Control D to duplicate. And then for this layer, we want to use the stroke only. So if you select this fill color here, then click this button that says no fill color. Click this stroke color here. We want to add in that hex code, and we want to change our stroke width to 2 pixels. With this layer selected, we're going to go to layer styles. We want to add in a bevel and emboss. And that will kind of give us that ridge that we see around this text right there. So let's open up these settings for layer styles, bevel and emboss, and we're going to change this to 1. Remove this gradient overlay right here. So now we have this lining around our text just like that. Okay, and let's go back over to our project panel. And now we want to take this text face comp that we just made, duplicate that, and let's rename this to text depth. Go into text depth. And the only thing we really want to do in text depth is remove this fractal noise on both of these layers. So that way we only have this purple. And actually, let's go back into our text face. Let's go ahead and remove this fractal noise. This is our stroke layer right here. So if we solo that, let's just get rid of that fractal noise. The way this font is, this Y kind of drifts over here to the right. Use this value right here to turn this over to the left. And we're going to have to remember what value we used. So I'm going to solo that right there. So it's going to be this space right here. Just click between the A and the Y and then just pull this over to the left. It sits more naturally next to the A. -85. So now let's go into this text layer. We'll have to do this with all of them. Go between the A and the Y and just type -85. And then let's go over to our text depth. And we'll have to do the same thing there. So we'll go ahead and solo this. Click from the A and the Y, make that -85. Solo this layer, A and the Y, and again, -85. I should have done this at the very beginning, but it slipped my mind. Now the kerning between all of the letters looks good. Okay, so now we need to create our text so that it looks like it's 3D, just like our Wednesday title treatment. Now, this is a trick I learned when I was working for a company that didn't have 3D software. They didn't have Element 3D. They didn't have Cinema 4D. So I had to come up with a technique to give us a 3D look, and it's very effective. And so we're going to create that right now. So let's Command or Control N to create a new composition. We're going to say text final 3D. Okay, and then we're going to drag in our text face. Drag in our text depth. Highlight both those, P for position, and then let's make them both 3D. And now we're going to right click and we want to separate dimensions on both. So right click on position, separate dimensions. Select both of those layers and just P for positions. Okay, so now we want to pick whip our Z position on text depth up to the Z position on text face. And I'm going to add in an expression here. So at the end of this expression, we're going to type plus index times 2. Whenever you see index in an expression, it refers to the layer number of that layer you're on. So for example, the index of this is 1, index of this is 2. So what this expression is saying is, we're going to take the z position, we're going to use the z position of our text face, which is 0. We're going to add it plus index, which is 2, and multiply it by 2. And that's how we get this value of 4. It's very important that you get this expression right here because we're about to make a bunch of copies. So with this layer selected, before we do that, let's go over here and type in fastbox for fastbox blur and add a 1 pixel blur to that. So I'm going to turn on my transparency so you can see what's about to happen here. So let's take this layer, duplicate it. Now, if you look at the Z position, now it's at 6. So see the layer above is 4. Now we're at 6. And again, it's because we're saying take the value of this Z position, which is 0, plus index, which is 3, times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Basically, we want to have a total of 50 copies. So I'm just going to go up to 11, take layers 2 through 11, duplicate. That way now we have 21. Take layers 21 through 2, duplicate. Now we have 41. So we only need 9 more layers, 32 to 41. It doesn't have to be exactly 50, but about 50 is the idea. So we have 51 layers. But as you can see now, if you take a look at our text, we have this extrusion and this depth here. And that's because of the expression we added, plus index times 2. Every layer is essentially being pushed back in Z space by 2 pixels exponentially. And if you look at the depth of this, it blends really well. So again, this is a trick that I came up with when I worked at a place that didn't have 3D software. And you can't really use the Cinema 4D setting for this because we have this texture that's on top of our text. So this is a little bit cumbersome, but it does get the effect that we're looking for. And now we need to create our main comp. Command or Control N for a new comp. We're going to call this main pre-comp. Okay, so now let's start to drag in some of these pre-comps we've already made. I'm going to pull this up. So we want our background on the bottom. Text final 3D, and we want to make this layer 3D. Duplicate this. We want to parent layer 2 to layer 1, and then open up position and rotation on this second one. Actually, let's go ahead and change this name to text shadow. Move this down, and we want to flip it. We'll say 110 degrees on the X value, 115. Let's go to effects and presets, and we want to type in fill. We want this generate fill. We're going to make this black. And then we also need to add in a fast box blur. And we want to make that value, the blur radius, 25. We'll set our blend mode to overlay. And you know, that blur may be a little bit much, so maybe let's try, we'll say 15. I also want to add in some smoke on top of this text. So that way it's a little bit more integrated. And the way we're going to do that, let's go back into our background layer here. And this is our smoke layer. Let's just copy that. Come back out to our main pre-comp, and let's just put that on top of our 3D final text. Go ahead and change this to 3D, and then we want to go in here to our effects and presets panel and look up hue for hue and saturation. Double click that, and let's make some changes to this. I'm going to close up this fractal noise real quick. Check colorize. We want to set our color hue at 300 degrees. Set our color saturation to 50, and the lightness will go down to negative, say 25. Close that up and go back over to effects and presets and type in tint. Double click tint. And the thing we want to change is this amount to tint. So we'll say 50. So that way it's not quite so vibrant. And then let's change our blend mode from classic color dodge. That's what it was in the other comp to screen. T for opacity, we're going to make that 50%. Let's go back over to effects and presets and look for fast box blur. And we want to just make that 25% so it's really, really blurred. Okay, and now take your pen tool or press G and just kind of make a shape cloud. It doesn't have to be perfect, just something that we can kind of set on top because this is going to be feathered out quite a bit. Hit F for feather, and let's just increase this up to 500 pixels so it's really, really feathered out. And that way we kind of have a little bit of a cloud right there on top, and it just kind of integrates this a little bit more. Right-click in this area that's to the left of your timeline, add in a light. And we want to make this a point light. And we can leave this intensity at 130. P for position, change our Z position to negative 250, X position 960. So that way we have this more dramatic lighting. And if you toggle this off and on, you can see that the difference this really does make. Moving on, let's go ahead and add in a new camera. We can go 35 millimeter. Right-click in the area that's to the left of your timeline, new null object. Make the null object 3D. Let's change this to camera controller. Parent our camera up to the camera controller. Okay, so this is where we're going to do our animation. Hit P for position on camera controller. Put a keyframe at the beginning. Go forward, we'll say 5 seconds. And let's just move in 400 pixels. So that way we kind of have this movement. Okay, and let's just select this last keyframe, F9 for easy ease. Open up our graph editor. Now we're not going to come in too terribly quick. Just give it some speed so that way it will come in and then kind of slow to a stop. So Command Option Y for an adjustment layer. Call this Lens Flare. Go to our effects and presets and we're going to type in Lens Flare. Just double click that to add it. Let's put our lens flare center at 1260, -250. Our lens type, choose 105 prime. Flare brightness, we're going to leave that at 100%, but let's Option or Alt click and type in wiggle 1,10. So it's going to give us like a little bit of a pulsing effect. Command or Control Y to add in a solid, and we're going to call this Vignette. I'm not going to use CC Vignette this time because I want a little bit more control over how I'm going to do this. So just click OK. So then if you go up to your toolbar, select the ellipse tool, just double click that. Now we'll put it right on top of this solid here. Let's change our mask. We're going to go subtract, open that up, and we're going to feather this to 350. Let's set our opacity down to 75%. And now I'm just going to kind of play with these handles. This is why I didn't use CC Vignette, because I want a little bit more control over how this is going to look. You know, I want the sides to really kind of pop. That way we can see the bottom a little bit better. Okay, so now select all of these layers. Shift Command C to pre-compose. And we're going to call this Main Pre-Comp. Now we already have this named Main Pre-Comp, so we're going to have to change the name of the comp we're in. Command or Control K to bring up our settings. Call this Final Animation. Okay, and the only thing I want to do here is P for position, Option, click. I'm going to type in wiggle 0.5, 5, just to kind of give it a little bit of movement. So once the animation ends, we still kind of have that movement. Now, since we're moving our position, we need to add in a motion tile. So go to Effects and Presets, type in Motion Tile. Let's double click that. Mirror edges and output width and height. Let's make 125. So what this is going to do, once our animation stops, which is at the 5-second mark, it's still going to have like a little bit of a bounce to it. Okay, and let's go in here for this point light, T for opacity, brings down to 100. So that way it's not quite so bright right there in the middle. And that's how you do a cinematic title animation. So like I said, this tutorial is super involved. There are a lot of things you can pull from it, whether it's the background, whether it's the particles, whether it's how to create 3D text. There's a lot that you can pull from this tutorial, and I hope you find something in this that helps you out and makes your animations even that much more powerful. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time. I want to thank Envato Elements for sponsoring this episode, and also thank my viewers for making this sponsorship possible. For designers, editors, and animators, Envato Elements is an amazing resource. With your membership, you can download unlimited assets for anything you could possibly want or need for your projects. Get access to high-res stock videos and photos, as well as motion graphic templates for titles, video displays, logo animations, lower thirds, infographics, promos, openers, and so much more. You also get access to backgrounds, textures, patterns, and icons, which we all know are vital resources. You get access to music for your sound beds in virtually any style or genre you can possibly imagine for designing the perfect sound for your projects. Speaking of sound design, you have access to Envato Elements' entire sound effects database, which includes any sound you could possibly need or want for anything from short film production to commercials to logo stingers. Every asset comes with commercial and non-commercial licensing at no extra cost, so both you and your clients can produce amazing projects with peace of mind. And again, with your membership, you get unlimited downloads of all of these assets from Envato Elements. Download as much as you want, as often as you want, without ever having to pay for individual projects or files. Check out Envato Elements from the link in the description below and get 70% off the first month. That means you have access to everything from Envato Elements for less than $10. It's an unbelievable deal, and I highly recommend you check it out. I hope this tutorial helped you out and that you learned something new and useful. Make sure to come back next time for another tutorial that will expand your knowledge of After Effects while also teaching you some really cool tips, tricks, and shortcuts. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe, and click the bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Support our channel by getting your 7-minute AE merch today at our online store. And sign up for my Udemy course, The Power of Shape Layers. It's guaranteed to make you a Shape Layer Rockstar. The link to that course, to our 7-minute AE store, and the project files for this episode are all in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.